Well, that was close. Forgot to press the go live button there for a moment. Hey, everyone. Massive welcome to another insightful episode here on InfoSec Live of Selling Cyber, where Greg van der Gaast and I explore how vendors can impress additional value from their offerings in a way that can drive real change to the security landscape. I'm your host, Simon Linstead, and you may notice my voice isn't doing too great today, so I will be relying on Greg to keep the show going. But in the meantime, sharing stories and best practice over the last few months has led to 50,000 views and over 8,000 hours of our content being watched on YouTube by you, our amazing subscribers. So a huge thank you for your engagement. And if you'd like to support the wider InfoSec Live community, or indeed buy me a cheeky decaf coffee, that joke's getting old, but I'm going to keep going with that. We do have a few ways that you can show your appreciation. First up, the ability to purchase super stickers in the chat if you'd like your question bumped up to the top, and 3 tiers of membership allowing you to show your support in any way that you can. But whether you join or not, being here and engaging with our content is what really matters. So if you're watching this live, please make sure you subscribe. You want to make these interactive, so also make sure you drop any questions you may have as we go in the chat. After all, it is your audience who makes these events so special. So let's bring Greg on and give my voice a little bit of a rest. Where's that stinger? I even made you your own little intro then.
I just saw that. That's I'm as impressed as everybody else is here.
Oh, good. People are impressed. I'm pleased. Look, thanks again, Greg, for coming on. Everyone, apologies for the voice today. I'm not putting on some croaky sound. I've picked up something nasty in DC, I think, last week. So
You sound fine.
Thanks.
Is it American COVID?
Is that what? Oh, it's worse, isn't it?
It's just bigger.
So before we kick off, then you reminded me to talk about a couple of things first. What were they, Greg?
Well, you've just come back from something that was a raving success, I'm going to say.
I have, actually, and let me find. I don't want to do it a disservice here. They are. So yes, I was very kindly asked to go and host the online portion of the AFCEA US Marine Corps IT Day in Quantico in Stafford, Virginia last week. And Greg and I were saying before the show, I didn't really realize until I got there how important that was. And the event, there were 300 leaders from the military and private industry there. The speakers were the Executive Vice President for National Security and Defense. We had the Executive Director for Naval Information Warfare, Deputy Director for the Marine Corps Enterprise Network, Deputy Commandant for Information in general, Lieutenant Matthew Glavey, who had lots of kind of important people with cases with him, the Deputy Chief Technology Officer and the Department of Navy Chief Information Office, Director of Contracts, Marine Corps System. I think that's why the private companies were there. But yeah, it was to say I was blown away was a bit of an understatement. Did I understand most of what they talked about? Probably not, but I did definitely pick up some snippets of information. And the biggest thing is how much money there is in the government space. Hence the really cool swag bags that people got on the day. Yeah.
You mentioned something about a 4-star general with his guard.
Yeah. So aides turning up with guards. Yeah, it was all a bit mind blowing. Yeah. But yeah.
And a lot of procurement there as well. I think you mentioned something about them going to spend big money on.
Well, I think the Cyberbytes Foundation, big shout out to Amanda from there for giving me the opportunity. They host, they've got all sorts of labs. They've got 5G Center. They've got what the Microsoft HoloLenses. They are, what's the word for them, Greg? Blended reality. Help me out. It's
the Surface thing. It's
I can't think what it is. Someone in the chat. Did you get any coins? I have got a coin, but I've left it downstairs, Justin. If I've got time later on, I'll run down and get it and show you. But yes, everyone had coins, and it's my first understanding of what the whole coins thing is. So I'm not going to explain it. I'll let Justin do that because I'll do it a complete disservice. But I think if you do something special or someone wants to reward you in the military in the US, there's a kind of coin reward system, and people collect these coins. I think vendors have ruined it a bit by making them and giving them away to everyone. But I think if you're given one of these coins, it means that they're giving it to you for a reason. And the funny story I was told is that if you don't have that on you and you're in a pub, and the person who gave you the coin says, "Can I see your coin?" you have to buy them a drink. So that was quite a good bit. Yeah, just insane. Yeah.
First I hear about these coins.
Yeah, me too. But I'm been invited back there July the 10th, or the week commencing July the 10th, just waiting to confirm a date where we're going to bring together some private industry leadership, CISOs, CTOs, and the leaders in the government space to bring them together for a chat. So that's very, very exciting.
Very cool. This was in Quantico?
It was, yeah.
Yeah. I gave a presentation eons ago, like 25 years ago, at the FBI headquarters, J. Edgar Hoover building in Quantico.
Wow.
I was there with a DOD agent who had quite the sense of humor on him. He was not politically correct, shall we say. And this is one of the least shocking things he's said. But he walked in, and it's so straight-laced, the movie, black shirt, tie, sunglasses, driving government cars type FBI agents, and he just walks into the lobby and he goes, because you've heard the stories about J. Edgar Hoover, keeping files and everyone, but apparently a bit of a cross-dresser.
Yes.
So he walked in there, and in the lobby he's like, "Hey, where's the tutu? Where's the tutu?" Did not go over.
It's a completely different world, and I was a little bit humbled to have been asked to go along and do it. I think you might have hit the nail on the head earlier. It's because I'm not a security leader, and perhaps I didn't understand half the sensitive information they were talking about, which is why they had me in.
This one seems all right.
He seems all right. We'll let him in. But no, just sticking on that before we dig into selling cyber, the whole event side is absolutely blown up. I mean, you've seen the feedback we've been getting from these. If anyone's in the UK, leadership wise, next Thursday we've got one at we'll release the venue now, Dirty Martini Bar, Greg's recommendation, just in case anyone wonders. Where we are talking about risk management, sponsored by Apex or IQ. And I'll tell everyone now, I mean, I've had 3 approaches for sponsorship for events today, and it's now a case of making sure we deliver on the events moving forward and don't just have them for having them's sake. So time for a bit of planning. What I don't want to do is for them to turn into every other event that's already out there. So no, exciting times, but I'm going to stop talking now, Greg.
Right.
Thank you for the confirmation on the coins, by the way.
I think that's important, because I think, so far, I mean, it'll be my first event of yours this month on the 25th. Get in touch with us if you want to score a seat in Manchester. But so far, all the reviews it's just different. It's just a place where people go inside to have like real discussions. We're not just rehashing the same old crap. It's not. It's sponsored by vendors because you have to make a living, but there's no sales whatsoever. And it's really about open discussion, interesting ideas, discussing, making, and the feedback from your past events has been tremendous.
Well, you told me why earlier. We have an open bar, you see, so.
I don't think it's exclusively. That's just the cherry on top.
We don't really always have an open bar, but it happens to be next week that we do.
Yes, but that's because I thought we should cite the event in a bar.
That is true.
Or in the basement, the seedy basement of a bar.
Seedy basement, spitting sawdust on the floor is what
on
I'm
a Friday night.
Yeah.
In central Manchester.
With my reputation.
Yeah. You don't have a reputation anymore.
Oh no, that's good. My old reputation.
Sure.
Anyway.
Well done.
Thanks.
Cool. Shall we carry on with the show?
Let's do it. Yeah. Thanks for bearing with us, folks.
Yeah. I never know how to you need to bring your coins now, Simon. You have to bring your coins to the event.
I thought you meant run downstairs and get it now. What if I can't? Oh, do you mean this one I have here?
Oh, hold it up to the camera. Come on.
It's blurry. It won't because
of the camera we're seeing you on, by the way.
My focus. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Wrong one. But no, I think it will go blurry. Look.
It has.
Yeah.
If only your face did that.
You can. Never buying anyone a drink.
It's the most intelligent I've ever seen you.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Cool. I wonder if we have like actual salespeople in the audience now. I'm quite curious what the split is between like.
I can see lots of leadership in there.
Yeah.
Justin's leadership, Brent leadership. I say lots. I can't scroll up any more than that. So I can see 2 leaders in there.
Cool. That's 2. I wanted to talk about, what do we call it?
Overcoming resistance.
Overcoming resistance, exactly. And you actually, in your post that I copied this morning, you worded it. You had 30 years of experience in objection handling.
That's what I would have called it. Yeah.
That is a term that I don't quite know. And I don't know that I would call it objection handling, because objection is usually like they have reasons why they don't want it. But often I find customers do want it, or especially talking to vendors. But there's still a lot of education to be done towards customers, and they don't always understand how the problem, because it is such a wide space, right? Not saying people are stupid, but it's such a wide space with so many problems, and there's always like new ones coming up and new types of solutions, and sometimes new problems as well. People don't always understand the problem space, and they don't necessarily understand how your solution will fit in that space, even if they did understand the problem space. So it's quite often I feel like customers are not being educated about what's the problem that you're actually trying to solve. Like, why is this a problem, and why do you need to solve it? And I think it's really important to relate that to the big picture, which is rarely done. You know, like, oh yeah, you need. I was approached by top of mind secure web gateway project today. So you need one of these, but why do I want one of these? And I've got 50 things that I need to build out. Where does this sit? Which ones, what will this have synergies with? What order should I implement with? What will this improve? What will it complicate? There's no information on that. So that's quite hard for a lot of people to understand. And feel free to jump in and actually make some conversation at any point.
I will, as soon as I've had some vape. Yeah.
Yeah, vape away. I know what you put in there.
Yeah. Sore throat medicine today.
I didn't know you could vape scotch. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's a honey and lemon mix. Yeah.
And the other one is, so that the kind of lack of understanding on the customer side, which you have to help them with. I think that's why I decided to kind of help vendors. It's to help vendors help the people, the practitioners.
Well, let's start with why don't they understand what the problem is?
I just want to finish the flip side of that is that a lot of vendors are really, really bad at like, forget the problem space. They're really bad at even explaining what their solution does. So even if I understand the problem space fully, I look at a website and I'm on it for 10 minutes. I don't understand what is it you do? Or, okay, I know what like Gartner chart you fit in, but you say you're unique and special and this and that, but you don't explain what is different about your offering. And I've noticed like there's still this kind of hype marketing where it's a bit like your intro or your background, it's a lot of like neon purples, blue colors, lights, very, very slick Aeon Flux type stuff. And it's like, that's cool. A lot of people like that in cyber, but most of those people are not the ones signing the POs.
It's true.
So you're appealing to a load of people, but they're not the ones cutting the check.
That's why we're not getting paid, isn't it?
Well, speak for yourself. I'll let you go now.
Tone down the intros.
One of my observations is like, as a CISO, I want to go on your website and I want to understand what your solution does in 30 seconds. And I'll spend 10 minutes and I still don't. And then I have to get in touch with a salesperson who usually doesn't quite understand the technical side of their product. And even then, that's assuming that I fully understand the space and I know exactly what I'm trying to achieve, which is a whole massive assumption that most places are, most companies don't have security programs. They don't have security strategies. They don't have any kind of plan for what they want to put in, how, why, in what order, over what timeline, with what budget. So it's a really crappy way of approaching it. So to me, that's like, we have a great product. We spend so much on marketing. People love us. It's like, yeah, but the actual decision makers don't understand why they should buy you and what you do.
So most of the websites you look at, I say most, a lot of the websites we've looked at confuse you for 10 minutes and you don't understand. How can they simplify that? What can they do? Because I'm very conscious that on LinkedIn, we hear a lot of people moaning about salespeople and sales approaches, but they never get given any information or direction unless they want to pay for stuff as to how they can change that. So what would be your recommendation to changing that messaging?
I think, first of all, I like to, like, especially when I write blogs. So I've done like a blog series for biz design. I'm doing one for Hitachi now. And I think the Hitachi one is a particularly good example. They're both about the same. Biz design does enterprise architecture. Hitachi Vantara does storage solutions. None of these things typically interest security people, but they're actually really important for security. It's like, well, if you had your engineers and sysadmins and architects design stuff properly, leveraging security, you wouldn't have to be managing the problems of the outputs, for example. Yeah. Storage, for example, tends to be like IT operations, but hey, you can run testing, you can replicate your environment because you've got a copy of it in your storage, and you can do a lot of your mitigation testing there and speed that up. Or you can recover something in 4 hours, which changes the impact of any given risk, because no matter how bad it is, you're going to be back up in 4 hours. That allows you to shift resource to fixing problems more strategically. I'll create these narratives, like explain the space, like what's the value of this? How does that fit in? This is how you should build. A whole installment for the Hitachi blog is like, this is how you should build a security program, which has nothing to do with their solution. It's just explaining it so that afterwards I can say, and that is enabled because I have this recovery capability. So I have this safety net that allows me to go and build this. So just framing things for people, because people really, really don't know. And you see people from like different technical disciplines becoming CISOs, and they have completely different approaches based on which technical discipline they came from. Like very, very siloed. Like I went to quite a large UK organization a couple of years ago, and they were interviewing for a head of information security. And the CISO was Air Force, and he worked in a NOC SOC, and all he knew was intrusion detection.
Yeah.
So his only requirement for a head of information security was intrusion detection.
Because that's in his mind, that's the most important thing. Is it you who used the police and fire alarm analogy before on the show? When if you asked, a policeman for an alarm, you'd get a burglar alarm. Ask a fireman, you'd get a fire alarm. Same thing.
Yeah. No, not my analogy, but it's a good point.
It's a good one. I should really write down where I get these from. I mean, from the vendor's point of view, the oldest tip I ever got taught in sales was the 3 words, which means that. So, it's great that your product is shiny, does this, does that, but what does it mean to the client? Which means that, this is what we do, which means that your problem is solved. Talk about the problem that you're solving rather than the results of your tool, perhaps. But again, I'm not a techie, so I'm just here to guide the conversation.
I think that's one of the first problems we have in the industry is so few people have a holistic view, like a business-wide view of, how things work. And there's a lot of like technical biases based on where they come from. And that kind of needs to be explained. Like we need to help people. Like you have to create a framework or a space in which all these products and offerings sit. And if people don't have that, then it's a bit like a child that has no discipline. It's just bouncing all over the place. And
you hear them?
No.
Good.
Congratulations on the what was it, 800 meter and 1500
And
meter?
1500, yeah, Jude. He's
Well done, Jade.
he's a determined little chap.
Yeah, that was a good adoption. That
I'll just tell you the story quickly. So we live in East Anglia, so he runs for Norfolk, which is a pretty big county, but not that populated. Last year, a young lad from London moved to the area who's beat Jude consistently now for the last 11 months. And what the boy was doing was sitting on his shoulder for the whole race, waiting until the end and then sprinting past him. So I've been trying to convince Jude for 3 months now to change his running style, because he's always been the one who wins everything. He just goes plowing out front to win. So I said to him, this time, play it differently, because psychologically you need to beat him now. And the only way you're going to do that is to make him as nervous as you've been feeling in your last races. So no disrespect to this boy, but this is what happened at the weekend. So Jude didn't just sit behind him. He sat 3 people back until the last 200 meters and then just tanked it. And he overtook him. The boy did a double take and threw himself on the floor, pretend he was injured. Psychologically damaged. Well, I shouldn't be saying that. He's 14. but you get the point. It's
emotional damage.
Yeah. Sorry, but yeah.
Yeah, we total tangent that.
Yeah.
But I think, and I think like having vendors create these narratives where you kind of explain the bigger space. It's really good for building trust.
Yeah.
Like people, like if you explain to them like, hey, this is the bigger picture, this is how things fit together, but not just tech. Like I quite like doing what I like, because I look at things like from a strategic perspective, and it's like, do less of that and more of this. Oh, but everything's on fire, we don't have time. It's like, yeah, but forget about it for a second, because if you do more of this next year, you'll have half as much as that.
Less fires.
And try to explain it and try to get them to snap out of that bubble and realize, oh, you know what? It's actually not the end of the world if I let 20% of that stuff burn, so I invest a little bit more time here, and next time I have a lot less. Next year I have less to worry about. And just these fairly obvious but insightful and different stories. And that's what I really enjoy doing for vendors, just looking at their product, looking at the problem space, and just like, well, here's something different that we could do with it. And then you've got like a little story that you can share with people and say, oh, I've not heard that before. That's quite, they've contributed to this space. They've given me an idea. That's interesting. And that immediately builds that relationship of, okay, these guys are not just repeating everything. They're actually came up with some good ideas.
Do you think this is why we're seeing more and more people in kind of the field CISO and field CTO roles? Because surely the vendors, when you're a startup, a big part of the process is market research, right? And you're finding out what your customer wants. But it seems like there's a bit that breaks in between.
I think the irony is that a lot of the field CISOs tend to be the more holistic, business-minded ones, which we actually really need in the post where they're actually doing the work.
Actual real CISO job, yeah.
Yeah. But I think a bit like me, like we're probably better off having them as that kind of force multiplier type role, where they are actually educating customers and also helping the vendor line up, educate the customer so that they're ready and they understand, and then you can sell them.
Yeah.
So a bit of that. So I think, creating those narratives for customers, even if it doesn't help, it's not specific about your particular product, but at least explain them, so that they know where they are, what they need, what's next. And if it's not your product today, it'll be your product tomorrow. But at least you've created that relationship already. When they need something that you have, they'll reach out for it. So
going back to a comment in the chat earlier from Justin, which was this one. No, not that one. Sorry, Jed. I told you I wasn't well. This one. A good sales rep is more like a consultant, in my opinion. Do you think that their approach needs to change to more of a consultative approach then?
Yeah, definitely. I think every sale, certainly for solutions, when you're selling something that solves a problem, I feel like it should always be consultative.
Yeah, you got distracted then, didn't you?
Yeah, I was reading Brendan.
I'll bring it up and hide behind it for a moment.
That's brilliant. The resistance I see is recruiting the right talent to sell cybersecurity is a cool job. The problem is some people think of cybersecurity as computer nerds still. From the truth, cybersecurity professionals are the new men, women.
Oh, you can't see the rest of it now, can you?
Uh,
Are the new men, women in black, protecting home and country from bad actors? Anyone in Hollywood? Question mark. So you need to sell it with a little Vegas cool. This will bring younger talent into the job pool. Thanks for bringing the cool today. I got to run. Cheers, bro.
I mean, do we want it to be cool?
I don't know.
I don't know that I agree with that. Sorry, Brent. I think we need to stop making everything cool and hypey and actually really start addressing some real valid humanistic.
I definitely agree with the start of that paragraph, which is the resistance I see is recruiting the right talent.
Yeah.
To sell cybersecurity, full stop. Because
I can see that.
Yeah. I mean, you've already said it once in the show today that most salespeople you speak to haven't got a clue about the technical side, which then brings you on to amazing people like David Higgs, who we had on from Rapid7 a couple of weeks back as a sales engineer position. Do you think we need more qualified people in those kind of door opening parts of the role as well then? Because I'm not being funny, it's not like the money isn't there to pay them, is it?
Yeah. No, it's definitely, it's an interesting one because we've said this a few times, because when it comes to like sales, commercial, business people skills, they're kind of rare in IT. I mean, compared to other demographics, we don't necessarily have those skills. I mean, I've been doing this for 25 years and it's a new thing for me.
You've always had people skills. I don't believe that for 1 minute.
The ladies.
As if you just said that. Sorry, wife. Yeah.
There's so much onion in the air right now. I'm not emotional from the onion. It's tricky. I think it's tricky. One of the things I like to do, you know this one, I like to make security into a business problem. Like it's just so focused on as a technical problem. And if you just make it in, like, I say, for example, security vulnerabilities, and this has been hyped up in so many ways and explained in so many ways, actually like really intimidating or confusing to most, an executive or anyone who's not an IT person really. But if you break it down, it's like, look, security vulnerabilities are basically quality defects in how you build systems, how you code, or maybe a process not being followed, or the wrong access being given, that kind of stuff. So you address it the same way that you would, any other kind of industry where you're trying to reduce the number of quality defects, which is unfortunately something we're not really doing in cyber, but we could, and I think it works really well. But if you explain it to them that way, then it kind of makes sense. And once you've kind of translated all these technical problems to, it's just a quality issue. We just need to reduce defects. We need to define what good is and make sure that things are good. And then we detect when they're not, and we fix that. Now, once you've made that translation, you can have the entire discussion in a way that's completely understandable to someone who's not technical. And I've done that a few times, and I've had like 3 or 4 like CFOs and CEOs be like, that's the first time someone's made security make sense to me.
Yeah.
So it's
and there lies the big problem, doesn't it? Before we move on to the next point, question from Jessica. Good to see you, Jessica. I hope you're doing well. How many vendors offer follow-up support that can actually parallel their sales counterparts' promises? Great question. I knew Greg like that.
I think it's actually towards the list of the questions, so we're definitely going to get to that, Jessica. We could actually do it now. Let me read the question. So I think one of them is like one that I wrote. Let's get to it later because I want to build up to it. So some other stuff. But the second half of the first question is just tell us what your product does. Tell us what your product does, and keep it simple, keep it clean. People love black text on a white background.
Yeah.
And I see so many websites where there's background images and the contrast is going and stuff is animated and it's like green, black, purple. And it's, most of your more senior decision makers, average age, I'm going to say is like 45. Like the younger CISOs are in their mid to late 30s. Most people would significant. If you want to go after, like Barclays and people that sign really big POs, they're probably going to be in their 50s.
Yeah.
They just want, and press for time also, they want clean, concise. It not only makes it more difficult, but it actually puts people off. It's like, the 25-year-old analysts, whatever, that they employ, they love that stuff.
Yeah.
But they don't. For them, it's like, it's just a mess. It's just noise.
It's back to knowing your market, though, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's it's cool, and it's tricky for me. For example, if you talk about the cool hype, technical stuff, the latest vulnerability, the latest tool, latest trend in AI, you'll get shitloads of followers. If you talk about security strategy and programs and leadership, a couple hundred. It's very, very slow. I see people who talk about cool tech stuff, and they built 50,000 followers in a couple of years.
Yeah.
And I'll never reach that. I might reach that, but it's going to take me years to get to that level. They're just not out there. So it's a much.
Let's stick on that for a moment then. So
I think that really upsets marketing KPIs. Marketing's like, oh, we got 300 hits on our website off that thing. It's like,
but none of them are going to buy anything.
Exactly.
They're not your target market who are following you. And this is what drives me a little bit insane with people's obsession on follow account on LinkedIn. And I'm not going to mention names here, but I know for a fact that someone shared one of my posts the other day about the community scholarship fund that we've got. And considering I then had 500 people from India connect with me, which is brilliant, but I can't get internships for that country. Yeah. I just think you've got to be mindful of who you're trying to communicate with and who you're trying to connect with. And if your marketing department is just looking at your numbers as to who visited your website, and you haven't got, is it Rocket Reach, the thing that shows you where they live and everything if they visit your website? Yeah. There's some clever tech out there. But again, it's back to the whole point of not appealing to the actual people who are going to write the checks.
Yeah. And I completely agree with what Estelle is saying there. As well, like when I build security teams, I tend to hire people. I love hiring people that like transitioned into IT and security, but they
wouldn't give me a job though, would you?
No. I would actually, but I don't know what I'd have you do. But people that have transitioned in from something else, so they have more kind of like general experience, business experience, people experience, whatever, and then they go into IT. And it's funny because I look at the industry, looks at them as like, oh, you've only been in cyber for like 1 year. You don't. Oh, you might have some transferable experience, but very few people actually want to hire them. When in reality, it's like it's the soft skills that no one appreciates that are far more valuable, because these are the people that they understand just enough about the tech that I can explain to them why that's a problem.
Yeah.
And then they're actually able to walk into the other department and get them to change the way they work so that problem goes away. Yeah. Whereas everybody else wants to hire 10 techies who are just going to firefight that problem forever. So I think the people who understand the tech but have built up the soft skills are far more valuable. And I think it's the same for sales as well. And to Brent's point there with the initial, his opening comment. But next point.
Let's just stick on there. There's been a few in the comments, and I want to make sure that we.
2 hour podcast. We always start really slow, and I'm like, "What are we going to talk about?"
I know, and then we So Justin put he was thinking of posting what he calls the answers to the sales test, so that BDR reps know what I actually need to be able to start talking. So that might be a good shout. Ariel has mentioned big issue, going back to our point a little while ago about us old people signing contracts. I think that's what we were talking about. Big issue is trying to find a happy medium that appeals to multiple generations entering the job market, appealing to senior PO approvers, but also attract the younger entry-level workers, which I think is absolutely right, apart from if you're getting people to sign multi-million-pound budgets, because as you rightly said, it tends to be, not always, but it tends to be slightly older people. Justin said he'll hire Simon when he passes his OSCP. It's clearly not going to happen. And Mobile Mayhem, I'm sure that's not your real name. So having over 20 years of interacting with customers is more valuable than, say, a year of computer experience.
Yeah, imagine that.
Well, 100% it is, right? Yeah. I don't think that's a facetious comment either. I think being genuine.
That actually brings me to, so I've got 6 points. I added 1 to your 5. My fifth point
just to keep
is,
me on my toes, was it? Or
yeah, because I don't know, my
hey,
fifth point
Lana.
that I wrote down is the technical stages of sales. I see a lot of pretty good sales pitches, or good presentations, webinars, an opening presentation, a talk, the problem space, the solution. And this whole time, the people watching it are like, okay, they're recognizing some of my problems. I'm seeing how the solution could help. And then the sales engineer walks them through the solution. But the sales engineer tends to be only looking at the tech, only like all the business and the personal context, and the focus on the would-be customer's actual problem space and what they're trying to solve is gone. And then it's 20 minutes of just clicking through screens, and all that kind of emotional momentum that the client had is gone.
Yeah.
You had like people was really building up, and then at the flat at the end of the call, just, and I see it very often. So I think having
it's back to which means that, though, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's very important for the sales engineer to be more sales than engineer. You kind of need someone who understands the sales psychology, understands, as I'm clicking on stuff, I'm explaining, if you run into that situation, that's where this option would come in handy. If you were in this, now, we're going to do this, and now this, and now this, and now this. There's no customer in that. It's like I'm literally just doing things on the screen. I'm not relating it to your problems, what you need to do. So you have to have first a sales mentality, who then understands the product and enough tech background to understand what the product actually does. But I think that
you could also argue then that perhaps the salespeople and the sales engineers need to work more closely together when it comes to delivering that proposition, because you've got two people there with those skill sets. If they tinkered with their pitch, so it wasn't just that dry death by demonstration 30 minutes.
But I think quite often the salespeople don't hire the sales engineers.
No, good point.
So, and I've seen like a good sales engineer, and who actually had those skills, and the sales team was like fighting over who could have them for their pitches.
Yeah, I bet.
They realized that it was important. So that's.
Do you think David Higgs is that person at Rapid 7?
I've not met the other ones, but I could see it.
Yeah,
I've not met the other ones, nor have I seen his demo. But for a sales engineer, he's surprisingly business and customer minded. So
yes.
Hi, David.
Hi, David. Don't forget you are going to give us a call back next week.
Okay, so I could take that one off. So yeah, the technical stage, there's that disconnect there as well. I think the perceived complexity is scary and confusing to a lot of places, because most organizations have small security teams. Like, how many companies are out there where security team is 2, 3, 5, 6 people? Not like a vast font of knowledge as to how everything works. And if you come in with like a big complex solution, or even something that really isn't complex at all, but you've made it seem really complex to make it seem like a bigger deal than it is. The number of times like you see something that looks incredibly complex, and it's like, well, it's just a GUI with a whole bunch of if then stuff behind it. But they make it seem really complicated as to kind of. And the funny thing is, people pay based on the value that it provides. They don't actually care about how much work you put into it.
Yeah.
And by making it seem so complex, it can intimidate people. It can worry people. So I'd be quite wary of hyping up your product of just how complex it is, because it can scare people off. And another one, which is actually completely different, is there's a fear of. There's a lot of organizations that really struggle to do security, and then they go and they look, and they're looking for solutions, and they find a solution that seems to do everything they need. But the question is, well, we've not done a terribly good job until now. What if we buy this great tool that can do everything, and we still don't manage? then we'll look really bad.
Yeah.
And that's a really weird, but it is a psychology that I've seen vendors come across where they're like, they love the tool, they realize, but they're kind of paralyzed about pulling the trigger on it, about, well, how do we justify all the stuff we've been doing for the last 18 months?
And that's why startups find it so hard to break in. And that's why big companies keep using other big companies that are crap. Because they've got the kind of brand behind them. Just want to come back to a comment from Mobile Mayhem in there. I know it's not perhaps relevant to what we're talking about, but I think it's related to what we're talking about. And he said that agrees with this, Stella, having the soft skills doesn't seem to get you a chance to get in the door. It seems like companies are more interested in the tech skills. And my answer to that is a lot of companies are struggling in firefighting, and they aren't putting the work in to actually take on and nurture and develop staff. They're bringing people in to hose down fires. And I think you're getting a lucky escape perhaps from not being accepted by those companies. But there are companies out there who are nurturing talent. It's just there's not as many of them. Mobile Mayhem.
I think, but no, I totally agree with them, to be honest, because the soft skills are still massively undervalued, and everyone's just looking for technical people to jump in and start firefighting. Very few people to actually. It's the car analogy of where they're lobbing the cars off the third floor, and you hire some person who has absolutely no mechanical skills whatsoever, but they're just kind of, because they're not in it, they stand there and they just sheepishly ask, why are we lobbing cars from the third floor? Like, holy shit, no one ever thought about that. If we just stop that from happening, we wouldn't need these 20 techies who cost us $100,000 a year because they're so sparse, because everyone needs so many of them. But yeah, it's very unfortunate. I hope that comes with as leadership and security matures, we hire more more analytical.
I think it's going in the right direction, just slowly, isn't it?
I hope it's going in the right direction. And the next thing I have, so the perceived complexity is something that you like, be careful about how you present your product, your solution, I would say. The other one where they're actually worried about, this is gonna, part of it is like, what if we don't manage to use the tool? And this can be a tricky one, because a lot of vendors like really overstate is maybe not the correct term, but I think a lot of vendors, let's be honest. Okay, I've got one in mind. A lot of vendors, the one.
Before you've even told the story, I know which one it is.
Overstate has nothing to do with someone who's recently been extradited to the US. Really overstate what the product can do. So then when the customer adopts it and they don't manage to do that, they look foolish.
Yeah.
Especially if you're like aggressively marketing it to executives or their managers who maybe don't understand all the tech, and then those people will take that solution and they can't deliver what was promised because it's just not possible, or it's not feasible, or maybe it's just haven't had the support to do it. That's quite hurtful. So that is not a good strategy. You're better off on the kind of like under deliver or under promise, over deliver. Lay it out for them. One I don't really know. This is more like a political one. Fear of visibility. So I love Tanium. I think Tanium is a phenomenal IT management platform. Gives so much control and visibility. I believe it's PwC who we're not screwing up financial audits when they do cyber insurance. We're such a PC show.
Yeah, that's another sponsor.
Sponsor us, PwC. We got loads of cash. Just fudge the numbers, make some money appear. But when they do incident response, the first thing they do is roll out Tanium. It gives such a massive amount of real-time visibility stuff. And a lot of stuff I hear from Tanium salespeople is CISOs are scared because they don't want everyone to have visibility.
Yeah.
They don't want people to know they've not been doing patching, or they've not been sorting problems, or they've not been doing this or that. And now all of a sudden everyone in IT is going to see that,
know what it means.
Yeah. And that can be tricky. So I mean, you either not sell to those CISOs, but unfortunately they're out there and they're not few and far between, unfortunately. Or you have to kind of give them a lifeline, create a scenario, defend, make them believe, make their boss believe how difficult that problem was to solve without this tool. So once the tool goes in and you see that he's not been doing anything, it's because it's that as difficult as the vendor said it was. Now I can fix it. Give them excuses so that they can justify the shit show that's exposed by the
and they can incorporate that into their initial pitch, because that's when they need to be getting that message across. Not when you're hoping to get a meeting, second or third down the line. You've got to cross that barrier right at the start. So perhaps that's a really good way for some vendors to change their outreach.
Because I remember it was actually the same founders as Tanium, was BigFix, a similar predecessor solution. When they first started rolling out, quite a few people got fired because of the visibility it brought, and companies realized, like, what has our IT team been doing? So that's an interesting one. So sometimes you have to be,
know your audience.
Yeah, I mean, you want to sell, and you are helping these people. Even if those people have maybe been a little bit negligent in their duties, you are helping them do better.
Yeah,
and you are helping all the people that they serve as well. Because they're securing a company that has customers, so you're helping them as well. So ethically, I think it's not wrong to do business with them.
It's better than leaving them to sink, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So there is that. And I think another kind of related one to the earlier ones is quite often you see customers that they're interested in a product, but they're just not ready to consume it. They don't have the expertise. They maybe don't have the time. They don't know how they're going to implement it. Sometimes you see like just they buy a product, but like 12, 18 months later, it's still not implemented. What was I going to say?
David's made a good point there, that the visibility can also show the understaffing as well.
Yeah, but that's hopefully something that you've been reporting. Quite, I've seen organizations where like, oh, everything's great. Yeah, we handle all of that, but they don't want to give you access to their console or whatever, or it's misconfigured and they know it, or they never bothered to check.
This reminds me of when I was helping the UK. I won't mention the names. Helping the UK-based company with their penetration testing outreach. You'd get clients who wanted to engage, and then you're at the stage of, please fill in this form and let us have this info. Well, can't give you that. And then it would be excuse after excuse after excuse, just hoping you'd go away and look at something else, I think.
Yeah, but they're just not ready to consume the service, and that can be a very problematic sale. It's maybe not worth the sale. The other thing is you just have to get them in a position where they understand why they're doing it, why they need it, and how they need to do it. But that's often something that a salesperson on their own can't do. Like if you have a product that suffers that kind of issue in sales and resistance, then I think your marketing needs to address that. Your materials need to address that. You need to reassure people. You need to provide guidance. You need to train your salespeople on how to address that, how to kind of navigate those things. And that's often missing. A very cool product does great things, but they're just not ready to consume it. They're not able to leverage value out of it. And I think that can go to the extent of, I think that it's not quite the same thing, but I'll merge into the last point, which is just like how do you ensure customer success? Because you don't just want to sell them a tool. You want to make sure that they get real value out of it, because otherwise they're just going to replace you in 3 years when the license runs out. They're not necessarily going to be happy with it because they're not going to get all the value. They're not going to be recommending it to people. They're not going to be, if they rolled it out on 20% of their estate, they're not going to keep rolling out to the rest because they're just not getting the value out of it.
Well, is this relevant to, hey, Alana, good to see you. I hope you're doing well. Shame I missed you last week, but definitely catch up in July. She's seen vendors shift to focusing on getting the product up and running quickly. small MVP to start, so it's not sitting on the shelf 18 months later? Is that including a more consultative approach to get it off the ground to start with?
Yeah, I've seen this with. So we rolled out Tanium at the University of Salford, and they were. It was their first higher education deal, and they were, let's say, extremely generous with the amount of professional services that they provided. Because there was, I think, also some internal resistance to change and this and that. I think there were, and I'm not exaggerating here, over 100 hours of calls with Tanium and the university's IT team to walk them through things, sometimes several times over, to get them to understand and see the value and how to use it. I don't think Tanium made any money after paying for all the professional services, because they actually.
But again, I think, like Alana said, it's if it's a vendor getting their product out there quickly and up and running, there'll be a new startup, and that social proof's going to be worth more than any.
Yeah,
at that point.
it did become the case study for the sector.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of it, is ensuring customer success. But sometimes you just need to like structure your offering on it. The actual product itself, or the way it's packaged. Whether it be like a certain component of professional services, or a certain part of it being managed, or make this a cloud appliance where it's easier, because people tend to stumble because they have to get a physical device. Look at what is keeping people from fully implementing and getting value out of your offering, and restructure the product accordingly. Like messaging, marketing, support, sales, professional services, all factors. But sometimes it's easier to just, let's take that problem away. Let's make it so the customer doesn't have to do that. Let's make that a managed portion. Let's change the pricing model so they only pay for this, and then it's a monthly.
Is it making sure that the business who implements the technology have got the staff educated and trained up enough to run it as well? Because I mean, in my limited time in the career, I've seen that happen frequently, where people implement technology, but I mean, it's a bit like migrating to the cloud, isn't it? You pay out millions to be migrated, and then you're like, right, now what? We've got no one to do the work.
It's the same as before. It's just over there.
Yeah. Bit jealous of your cold drink there, actually.
It's just water. Don't get excited.
I've got cold coffee here. It's better.
That is actually better. What was your last question?
I've got no idea. Alana's made a statement, though, we can talk about while we think about what that was, which is change management should not be underestimated.
Yeah.
You can't just say yeah to that.
I agree.
Yeah. Oh, good. There we go.
Okay. Change management, project management, plan it. Plan it. But your last statement was, people not necessarily having the capability of the resource internally to implement stuff.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of places are on. Well, I actually don't know what percentage of organizations do this, but they'll buy products, but they'll rarely, quite often, some vendors will package in professional services. But then to save a few quid, the companies will not take the professional services.
Yeah.
I am one of those people, but I tend to, get involved, or I'll do it when I know the product. I've used the product somewhere else, or I've used similar products. I know I can figure it out. But for a lot of companies, it's what they're buying is completely new, and they're unfamiliar with it, and they don't have any staff that are familiar with it. So it's like, I know it's like $5,000 in professional services, but otherwise it's the difference between getting, 30% and 120% ROI on a $100K investment. So, but how do you package it? Because they might have the resistance to. You include it?
I suppose you you package it accordingly for each pitch that you're doing, or each customer that you're doing. And again, it's back to doing what I would call a fact find first, which is the information gathering, both hard and soft facts, to make sure that whatever you are putting in front of them gives them all the bits that they need, rather than that cookie cutter off the shelf approach for everyone.
Yeah. And you can have variable pricing models. Some people do. Tanium's another one. I didn't even know they did this, but they have, basically a cloud. It's mostly on-prem, but then they have cloud-based offering, and then you have companies like Endpoint X, which is based out of Knutsford. They are basically exclusively Tanium Giving them a lot of free press here.
Tanium, yeah, Tanium.
Yeah, just managed services, consultancy, SaaS, but they're bringing it down to like smaller businesses that Tanium wouldn't handle directly. So different ways of structuring things.
Have you done some work for Tanium?
In the past, yeah, not recently.
No, maybe you should think about sending the link to this video.
I would like to do more. Their salespeople keep asking me to do more stuff with them, but they're always guys in the marketing department.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Tanium. What are we finishing? We've got a couple of minutes left. What are we finishing off on?
We do a summary, I guess.
Let's do a summary.
Yeah. So explain the space and explain the problems and explain how people need to address them, but like in a genuine, holistic way, not just my product. I think that's not only educational, it really grounds consumers, the buyers, in terms of understanding what they need now and what they need later. And I think just by being the one to educate them, you create that relationship so that they may not need anything from you today, but you educated them. So in 6 months' time, when they do need something, they're way more likely to come to you. I think putting any kind of value into the space creates loyalty. You don't necessarily have to have a sale to create that loyalty. Like if someone's helpful for me, if I go into a store and I don't buy anything, but the service is excellent, and 6 months later, like, oh, I need to buy something and they have it, well, I'm going to go out of my way to make sure they have my business.
You know what else you'll do? You'll tell your friends about it and your colleagues about it as well.
Yeah, exactly. Even if I don't buy it, I'm going to recommend it. Yeah. So that how you communicate your own product, like, I don't know what percentage of websites it is out there and marketing pitches and stuff, but it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's not only just doesn't give me the information I need, but it's actually annoying.
Oh, you know what we should do? Idea for future show, just to write off a few more sponsors. we could do a website roasting live. Maybe.
Hold on a second. I just want to see what darktrace.com looks like.
Really cool, I expect, with green writing.
It's blue and orange.
Is it?
You know what? It's not the worst I've seen.
Is it not? Oh, that's a shame. That's a shame because we've already written them off as a sponsor.
And you know what? There is a sales guy who reached out when I roasted them like a month ago. He reached out and he's like, I don't want to repeat these mistakes. Could we have a call? Because I'd love to learn.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I forget if he rescheduled or I rescheduled and I completely forgot about him. So I'm very sorry.
I'm probably still making those mistakes.
Like, you seem like a decent human being.
They found one to ring you. Yeah. But saying that, Darktrace are really big in the federal space, and they've got a really good reputation. I had this whole conversation last week where I was a little bit slack-mouthed at the mention of them on several occasions, and the service that the people are getting there is pretty phenomenal. I think bigger budgets, maybe.
I wonder if it's like a different sales organization in the States.
Might have been the chap who called you. Yeah.
No, it was UK because it's a UK company.
Yeah.
They're big in certain spaces. I know we take the piss out of them. I don't actually hate them. It's just the marketing.
I think it's, again, not an expert, so can't make a comment, never used their product, but the leaders I have spoken to have all said the same thing, which is they were great at one point when they did one thing really well.
Maybe which is not a bad recipe.
No.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So yeah, how you present, make sure you're targeting the right audience, keep it concise, explain what it does, what it helps, from what problems it solves. Not these things are scary. Our products, like, if you had to tell me that these things are scary, then when I came to your website, then why would I even come to your website?
Agreed.
You should have a reason, and that's kind of your outbound, explaining the space, contributing. People know you as an authority. You've explained the problem space. When they've reached that point where they need that solution for that problem, they come to you. They already know what it is. Don't try to make products seem overly complex or cool or buzzy, because it's actually intimidating to a lot of people. That fear of visibility that your product can think of political problems that a solution can cause, and help people hedge them, and get people ready to consume it. Explain how it works, how they need to configure it, what that process looks like of implementing that solution, and be honest in how it's actually going to work. Because quite often, sales them, oh yeah, it's just and you're all done. In reality, it's like, no, this is going to be a 3-month project to import and configure everyone into this. So, be honest with those things. Don't have that disconnect in the sales on the technical side. Get, really good sales engineers. And it was actually like, after I saw some sales engineer demos, like really kill some really good presentations on my website as services and advisory stuff, I actually put like training of sales.
I was going to say, is there a gap in the market for some bespoke training, perhaps bringing together the salespeople and the sales engineers to make them work more effectively together on pitches? Because if people are doing what you say, which is salesman at the start, building it all up, making you feel all warm and fuzzy, and then whoosh.
I could see. So we have been talking about doing some kind of seminar to help vendors and salespeople, sales tech, applying all these principles and the stuff we've talked about before, and the other stuff that we'll talk about next week. I could see doing one for sales engineers and someone said it before, like, it's easier to teach tech skills to people who have soft skills, but most of the people we have in place have the tech skills and need the soft skills enriched. And I wonder if we could show how many pitches kind of bomb a bit because the sales engineering part falls flat, the technical side falls flat. I could see people want to send their sales engineers to get a bit of a boot camp in sales psychology and that kind of stuff.
I think there's more chance of that than getting them to come on here and doing their pitch and letting us roast them, I feel.
Yeah. If you present it as an either or choice, then we're in business.
Yeah. Would you like A or would you like B?
Estella, you know what? Estella, could you please connect with us if you're not already? Because you have a lot of insights that we'd love to.
Estella is an amazing part of the InfoSec Live community. Let me get your, if I can find the LinkedIn page so she can connect with you on there.
I'm trying to steal your brain, basically. And just ensure customer success. Don't leave people once you've sold.
There we go. Current sales engineer. Yes. Oh, I thought you were saying you were a current sales engineer then. Sorry. It's been a long day. Current sales engineer boot camps are very expensive.
Yeah.
Be interested in finding out more about
that. I think it's something that we should be doing. And on that note, so next week, I just want to cover a bit what we talk about next week.
Are we going to go same time, same place, keep it consistent? How are you for that?
That would be nice.
Yeah, let's do that.
If you could stay in one place and healthy for more than a couple of days.
Well, I will. I'm not coming to Manchester for our photo shoot until Thursday. So
okay.
That sounded wrong, didn't it?
Oh, that photo shoot.
Oh, sorry, Greg. You were saying?
It's a Thursday. I thought it was going to be a Friday night. Okay, it's a Thursday.
Thursday, yeah.
I think I've got a thing with Sophos in the morning, and then I'll catch you in the afternoon, and then we'll do the event.
Okay. Well, I'll just to discuss our personal business on a live stream, I'll get the early train up, so I'm up there for lunchtime for when you're finished.
Sounds good.
David! It's fine, David. We've been talking about you the whole show.
There he is.
Tuned in.
Exactly. See, we've been talking about you, David.
I have.
David seems like a guy who understands these things, and there he is, chiming right in.
There we go. Last comment up there from Jessica Goodwin, who's spoken with 2 people this week looking to build a sales engineering algorithm. I'd love to know how that works.
Yeah, me too.
You are late to the party, David, but we're going to see you next week in Manchester. I hadn't told Greg before, so he's going to be surprised.
Excellent. I'm surprised now.
There you go. See, how about that? Well, look, we're rambling now, aren't we? Shall we?
No, I want to cover what we're going to do next week. So next week, because we touched on this a little bit a couple minutes ago. So I want to talk about because I've been doing a lot of events, a lot of public speaking lately, and I've learned to observe audiences because I was always worried about how engaged they were when I was speaking. Like I can tell when I'm doing my skit with recording devices being taped to my nuts and they're laughing. That's good. But once you start talking about serious stuff, it just goes quiet. And I've learned to like kind of read the audience. So like, are they actually engaged? And it's funny, little things from people like tapping their feet, how they're sitting, these little things. And I've noticed that there are some vendors with like really bright people, apps like loads of experience and insights, but the way they're presenting their solution or the problem, it's really like they're talking kind of at the audience, which the audience feel like people are just being talked at, and you immediately see people kind of like sitting back, body language shifting sideways. They feel like they're being sold, and they're listening, but they're filtering.
They're closed.
Not nearly, they're not nearly as receptive. And then, but the exact same people who were talking and causing that reaction then later sit in a panel and talk, have a discussion with each other, and they're more about like sharing actual experiences about what they did when that they ran into this.
And this is why the InfoSec Live events are going so well, because we don't have those talking heads.
And then people, it's the same people talking that 5 minutes earlier people kind of distrusted, and now all of a sudden people are leaning forward. And I think there are so many better ways. I don't think many people are doing this. Like there's something between like a hybrid fireside chat panel talk that I think would work so much better at it's just more engaging for audiences. It feels more real. It feels more natural. It's not threatening. They're way more receptive. So I want to kind of like discuss the psychology, which I know fuck all about.
I think you're picking it. I've got a really good book here if you want to borrow it. But you say that the event that's the event in Tampa, we plan to have a panel debate with my friend Steve Hindle, CISO, sort of hosting it. But when we looked at the guest list and we saw how many outspoken, potentially engaging people were on the list, we shifted it to an open mic debate. So Steve opened it up. We had 3 microphones and we took the mics around the room, and that should have lasted for 45 minutes and it went on for 3 hours.
Is that what you're having me do next week?
Yes.
Oh,
should have told you that. Yeah. And I think it's because people feel involved. They can get their opinions across. They can get their questions answered. Plus, there were some interesting characters there as well, as I'm sure there will be next week, which definitely.
Yeah, I feel like it's way more interactive that way. It's just like even when I do talks, I think they're relatively engaging, but a lot of people don't. It's harder to get. I'd love to have a talk where I'm just like saying some things, but at the same time having a conversation with the audience, but people don't feel comfortable with that. But at least afterwards, they come and ask me questions.
Yeah.
And I don't see that happening to, the sales pitch. Like, had a nice event, had a nice lunch. We talked at you for an hour and everyone's like, oh, thanks, bye.
Yeah.
Grab my swag and go.
Oh, if you come in next week, there's no swag, by the way, just an open bar. So,
you're enough.
Testing. Hey.
I would say an open bar is both more environmentally friendly and better.
Absolutely. Yeah. How is that more environmentally friendly? Can you just clarify that for me?
It's not just a bunch of plastic USB key rings and.
Oh, got you. Yeah. Sorry. Oh, you mean like the big bag of stuff I've got down on the floor here from last week?
Exactly. Yeah. You said they had good swag. Anyway, I think we're done now. Let's.
Yeah. No, everyone. Thank you. Thank you so much. And David, thanks for finally turning up. Good to see you for the last few minutes. And we look forward to seeing you next week. In the meantime, Greg and I will be back week today. We're going to stick to this schedule now. 6 p.m. British Summer Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday evening for more Selling Cyber. Everyone who's engaged, thank you so much. Greg, it's been a pleasure. Speak to you soon.